Hello again, everyone. Melth back again with another Advanced Wars by Web Global League match. Quite an interesting one this time. My first Tier 4 Global League match. You probably noticed by now that almost all games on my channel are Tier 2, just kind of the way the dice have turned out, so I was very happy to have a Tier 4 game for once to mix things up. It was also interesting in that it was on a very good map, which I really wanted to talk about. So, this map is called Settles of Stillwater version 2, and I'm grateful I got a chance to play on it before it was taken off the Global League and replaced with Settles of Stillwater version 3. All in all, I think this is the most interesting one of the three. On version 1 you have the black boat instead of a lander over here, which made this side, down here for the top right player, undefensively weak. You would just get run over with a recon at the beginning of the game, you couldn't do anything whatsoever about it, and you take forever to reinforce yourself from down in this direction, so basically there's a question of when, not if, you'd be overrun down here. Which wasn't terribly interesting. I made just like a turn 3 recon the only viable move, pretty much. I don't really like games. There's only one viable opener, which is how that one mostly felt. Now, version 3 doesn't have that problem anymore. It still has a lander, so that's great. That really changes the map a lot. But one of the things I thought was really good about version 2 and 1, and it's interesting, is this triple cluster of cities down here. The middle is really important on this map. It's a high-income map in general, but there's a lot of money in here. And just having 3 cities next to each other is basically unheard of in the Global League. And I like maps that are unique and different. Likewise, this pipe and pipe seam is really interesting. It sets up a fun position where we can have artillery back here covering all 3 cities at once. We put it over here and cover these 2 cities at once to make artillery play quite viable and interesting, which is rare in Fog of War maps because they're often so wide open that artillery are just not that good. And later on in the game, you can break open this pipe seam optionally if you want to, weakening your wall, but making it so you can get reinforcements through super fast with your lander, which is a fun trade-off. So, I really enjoy that about this map. And I also enjoy how it makes things kind of a little bit claustrophobic and closed in there. You can get troops drop off here and come around this direction easily enough, but you can't really get super efficiently through that forest. You can get choke pointed there. And that, I think, is also a fun feature of this pipe that encourages breaking that seam. On the new version of it, the pipe is tiny and doesn't have a seam anymore, and the map is wide open, there's not a third city anymore, and so it just becomes another brawly-looking kind of generic Fog of War map, which is okay, but I like maps that are unique and different. I also like COs that are unique and different, and that's why I picked Jess for this one. Jess is usually a horrible CO. She's usually pretty much near the bottom of the bottom tier. And that is because of the thing that makes her unique, which is that she has garbage infantry. 90% attack power. No other CO has bad infantry in this game. So having bad infantry, I'm Colin technically, but no, forget that. No other CO has bad infantry in this game. That makes her unique, and I really enjoy COs who change the game in that kind of way. In my opinion, the problem with her is not that her infantry are bad. That's something that's fun and unique about her. The problem is her vehicles, which are her specialty, are not very good. She has plus 10% attack power with all ground vehicles, but that's just not that great. Many people have plus 20% attack power with their best vehicles. She also has a penalty with air units and sea units, too, just to add insult to injury there. I feel like I would like her a lot if she just had slightly better ground vehicles overall to compensate for the weaknesses, but oh well. In any case, on this map she's actually pretty viable, because she's pretty good the higher the funding amount is, because that means there's more vehicles and fewer infantry around, so that's beneficial to her, of course. It's also a map where air units are just not that great, I would say. Which is one reason I decided against Jake. One high-level player went as far as to say that building, battlecopters is just throwing the game, basically. They're that bad. That, I think, is a major exaggeration. Plenty of high-level players use battlecopters to great success here. They're perfectly viable, they're just much worse than they usually are. And their role is different. They're not really going to be a primary attacking unit on this mission, because they're super slow to come out, being way in the back, and with the lander making vehicles even faster than they normally would be just based on the distances. You might think these woods would slow down vehicles, but they really don't compared to being all the way in the back here. And compared to just dropping people off down here with the lander, it's not even a contest. So that's one reason they're kind of bad. They're just kind of slow and bad for your tempo. And also, the terrain is just not that good for them. Yeah, the ocean's good, but the lander covers that for ground units anyway. Pipes block them just the same as they block land units. And there aren't really very many mountains at all on this map, so they can't hide behind those. There's no rivers, they can't hide behind those. So the map, for combat purposes versus anti-airs, is pretty darned open, actually. So that's one reason they're not that great, but they're good for a couple of things you'll soon see later on in this game. Well, enough about Jess for the time being, why I picked her. Let's talk about my opponent's CO, Cole. At the time I picked my CO, Jess and Cole and Jake and Adder actually were all basically tied for win rates of about 50% on this map, which to me is a sign of a very healthy map where many COs are viable and good at different things. I like that. I considered picking those COs briefly myself, Adder or Cole it is, but to my mind they're just a little bit too average and boring. I like COs who are different and change the game. Cole is basically a worse Adder. People used to think of him as being a better Adder, but no, he is just a worse Adder. Like Adder, his CO power and super power just give +1 and +2 movement respectively, but whereas Adder gets a super cheap CO power giving only costing 2 stars for 1 movement, Cole's is actually quite expensive for what it does at 3 stars. That's a pretty bad deal for getting just +1 movement on all units, and also his other perk, a tiny bonus of damage on roads. Plus 10% damage on roads passively, day to day, 20% with the CO power, 30% with the super power. I will point out, just adding insult to injury for this pretty bad character, they just made him worse than Jake. They're both people who just get bonuses on a particular terrain tile. Roads are just worse than planes, and they made his bonuses just be smaller anyway, just to make him worse. I don't know why. In any case, what he will have that are really, really good are good infantry, especially compared to mine. Infantry really love that +1, +2 movement when they have a bad base to begin with. When you have a vehicle with like +6 movement to begin with, getting +1 more or +2 more movement isn't that big a deal. When you're dawdling along at 3 movement, getting +2 movement is incredible. So he'll have great infantry, and in particular they'll be much, much better than my infantry are. That'll be a big problem for me throughout this match, so I was thinking about that as I went into it. Let's get to it. Now, as you can see, he actually stole my color, so let's fix that here. Let's make things the way they should have been. Alright, you can be a black hole, and I will be the color that I should have been able to be, purple lightning. Yeah, I hold a bit of a grudge here. Alright, much better. So, let's get into it. Turn 1, I put my lander to the port, and that is definitely the best move here. One reason I want to show this replay is to talk about what not to do with landers and what to do with them. Landers are crucial to this mission, and I think that they're part of the game that I'm pretty good at from my experience in the Global League and matches like the one against Starduster so far. And I think my opponent really made a lot of mistakes with his lander, this one being Exhibit A, not putting onto that port. He wants to capture that port early, but why? He's not going to get any naval units, of course. The +1 income that you get from that is not at all really worth it compared to getting this amazing capture chain over here and getting good positioning too. Of, 1 city, 2 cities, 3 cities, 4 cities. I mean, you won't actually capture all 4 before things start happening, but huge capture chain, and then going to the middle is really worthwhile too. Getting just this 1 port with nothing else to do, absolutely not worth it. There's no build order that really requires that amount of extra money on this map, like a turn earlier. It's not worth it. So I go ahead and go for my drop-off down there. And he just blocks his own port, and sits offshore and does nothing. I go back, I'm going to put 2 guys onto that lander and drop them both off, next turn. These cities, these are valuable. These cities are valuable. This port, it doesn't matter. I'll get it eventually, but it's not at all important, compared to positioning and more income from getting these capture chains. Now, one thing I knew about my opponent going into this is that he loves recons. And turn 3 recons are pretty good in this map, so I expected a turn 3 recon from him. He doesn't actually do that, and I actually will say that was smart of him. He made a good choice making his vehicles match his strategy here. A turn 3 recon would not be a good choice for his strategy. I will also point out one other difference here, which is that whereas I had my infantry that went this way go to this city next, he went for that city first, as you'll soon see here. He still does not go for lander. Could have put it here at least and picked up somebody, but no, he's still doing nothing with his lander. I'm going to drop off there. I'm capturing this city here. So here's the difference in our strategies. My game plan for this mission was, this is my strong side. I'm going to get this, but I guess it's inevitable I'm going to get this. It's my strong side with that lander. And I want to get the middle as my second priority. Get this stuff early, and then swing into the middle and capture that. So I'll have this and that. He can have this stuff. I can't win everywhere at once, but if I have all, most of this, all the good income lead, I'll win that way. I have better units, better powers overall. If I have better income too, I will just win. His strategy is nothing but the center matters. Which, on this map, I can understand that. And for that strategy, going for this property before this one does make some sense. You can get this property, go into the mountain, grab that property, then get right into the middle. Whereas I'm going more for getting this, swinging by these properties, and then going to the middle probably after that. Likewise, a turn 3 recon to harass me over here does not help him really getting in the middle. He gets a turn 4 recon instead because that actually will help him, as you'll soon see. And here he puts people onto the lander. Makes some sense, I guess, but it's really, really delayed. You'll see a lot of kind of cluttered infantry and future turns doing absolutely nothing because they just are piled up here capturing nothing left, whereas I'm capturing all these things out here earlier. And it's much more efficient overall. Alright, get in the airport, get in that captured chain. Now, if you are not planning to build an early tank, as I am, getting this capture chain is probably not a good idea. You can consider just going defensively back in this direction and capture these middle cities instead, which are easier to defend with a tank coming along that way or whatever. If you go down here, a recon on turn 3 will harass you and you won't have a countermeasure to it unless you get, as I'm going to do, an early tank here. Alright, so this is something that I think is important, and a key difference between my strategy here and what I saw some other high-level players do. Several people did a similar early tank build like I'm doing here. But what I think they did that was not as good was they put this infantry onto the lander. That is, I would say, a mistake. It's not totally worse, but it is overall worse, I would say, for most purposes. The perk of it is that you can then put your tank down here, and your infantry up there, and you get one more infantry going this direction. You'll tend to find, though, that he is mostly kind of late to the capture game, for most people's capture orders. And what you pay for that with is much worse drops off over here for like 5 turns, basically. You'll be paying for that for like 5 turns to have one more infantry 1 turn earlier over here. Not really worth it. See, here's the thing. If I have this guy go over here, he can capture that port next turn instead of walking onto the lander. And that is really, really useful. Because one thing that I saw even some high-level players doing on this mission, I think it's wrong, is capturing both these ports at the same time, thereby blocking themselves from using their lander for like 3 turns. Because there's nowhere to go back to. My opponent finally has that spot over there, and he builds himself another recon, which is not good in how he did it. A second recon is perfectly viable on this map. I don't fault him for that. But this is objectively the wrong turn to build it on. And this is again another lander matter, where lander optimization is really, really important. What we should have done was build an infantry this turn here, save his money. Next turn, infantry walks here, lander comes back to port, build a recon next turn, and then I can hop onto the lander and get dropped off here. It'll be the exact same timing getting over here, but it's an infantry that's like several turns faster going out here. It's just objectively better to save his money and do it that way instead. As a general rule, if you are loading units into your lander, the turn it comes back to port, you're probably playing wrong. You need to have a special reason to ever want to do that. Alright, so over there, drop off, I've got good coverage now. If you had a turn 3 recon, he'd be attacking me this turn, but I'd have perfect coverage, and he'd almost certainly die. One reason I did this strategy was that, as Jess, if he first strikes you, his recon against your infantry on a city, then you hit him with a tank, and then hit him again with your infantry, you will almost certainly, like 80% chance, kill him. It's great. So, killing off the enemy recon is a lot better than leaving it with 1 HP to scout another day. Over there I got my own recon because I want to see what he's doing over here, but then more importantly, my goal is get over here, get this up first, then swing into the middle. The recon will be great for seeing what he's got in the middle to guide my tank, so that is my goal there. Alright, so his recon is going to go into the middle instead, as we'll soon see here. It loads up into the lander the turn that it lands, not a good idea, wasting time. And his recon drives into the middle, so again, he is laser focused on the middle. So for that purpose, a turn 4 recon is perfectly reasonable. A turn 3 recon would have been a complete waste. Builds us a tank this turn, that makes sense. It's a good follow-up to that turn 4, turn 3 recon. I agree with that build completely. And it's what I'm expecting, really. Alright, so now I go for that port. Notice that the way I stagger things basically means instead of blocking myself for like 2 whole turns where I'm doing nothing but capture, block myself for only 1 turn until this lander is back in business. That's not so bad. Especially because I can guarantee a turn where I don't really need to use the lander that much. So it's the minimum amount of hampering while still getting good income here, basically. Alright, so American drives over there. Lander has to waste 1 turn, not 2. That's pretty good. And here I make, I would say, a pretty big mistake, building that T-Copter. Not that a T-Copter itself is a mistake here. T-Copters are great on this map. It really is a T-Copter favorable map. You can get great boosts the way things are positioned here. It's wonderful to pick up infantry from this base and just fly over here to the middle where you need so many infantry to capture all the cities. That is just phenomenal. The problem was building it so early. I really should have had a tank following up, backing this recon up instead, because I'm too vulnerable over here now. It wasn't really worth it for what I get for it. I should have built it next turn probably instead. That would have been better overall. I would have had the money for that. Tank this turn, next turn tank and T-Copter. That would have been a better idea. Especially given that I haven't seen a recon over here, so he could have anything out there. So I'm not really safe going over here. Now on this turn, he makes some mistakes. If you've been paying attention, he actually saw me walk this way. So it's pretty darn reasonable to think that I'm going to be on this city. I could be in the woods, but that's unlikely. So he really should know that I'm here. Now, I knew I was risking being scouted doing that, but I thought if he doesn't have a recon attacking me, he probably doesn't have a recon here at all. And also, if he does have infantry on the city already, which is plausible, I want to be ambushed while I'm on the plains rather than ambush while I'm on the road. So that's why I did that. But it was a downside that he actually could see me. So he should know that I'm there. But he actually gets himself blocked in ambush. You won't be able to see it in the replay viewer, but that's what happened. And then, because he's over here, he can't actually cover himself, because he blocked himself. The recon can hit this city, but only from that road that he actually blocked himself on. So then he has to drive over here instead onto this city, where he gets ambushed a second time. So, devastating. Here he drops off his recon, I agree with that. He built it on the wrong turn, but his drop off with it, perfectly reasonable. And another tank to do a tank chain, also perfectly reasonable. No objections to that whatsoever. In any case, over here, I scout the middle and see, okay, he doesn't have any of those properties, that makes sense, it'll be ready to hit him if he goes for them. And here I had a tough choice to make. I need to kill this recon off, but who do I kill it with? I can kill it with that infantry, or that infantry. If I do that one, the downsides are, I'm revealing the infantry, and probably more importantly, I am delaying these captures by like 2 turns. That's a big cluster of cities. It's really worthwhile to get those things. So that would really be a downer. Compared to just giving up this one property, and moving closer to this cluster of cities. But here's the reason that I actually did go ahead and have this guy do the attack. Oh, sorry. Here's the reason I actually had that guy go ahead and do the attack. What I know is, that was a turn 4 recon. I'm certain about that because I read its fuel, and it made sense with its positioning. And this, I know, is not his day 1 infantry. I realize that his day 1 infantry actually has to be going up this way. It's the only logical explanation for what I'm seeing, basically. Just based on having read his fuel and counted up the turns. I talked a lot about the importance of fuel reading in my previous video and how it could be a complete game changer. It was really, really useful for this battle too. It told me exactly what he was doing a lot of times. So, I know his infantry from day 1 is currently right here, and we're going there next. And I know that he's really there for focus in the center. That's the only explanation. He had his infantry go that way. Even though I haven't seen it, I know that's where it is. His recon did that too. He's just laser focused on the middle. That's good information for me to have. And so he probably has a tank going that direction too, probably coming from this side. And if so, the funny thing is, I know it'll be here, and I know it can't actually hit me while his infantry is there, so he can't 2-hit kill me efficiently. So if I capture the city now, he can't actually get it back. Whereas, if I walk off of this property, he can safely drive that tank to cover the city and start capturing it away from me. And that'd be pretty bad. So that's why I do this. I'm not certain it's the right move, but that was my justification for it. Alright. Quite efficient captures overall, get some T-Copter boosts, set up for even more T-Copter boosts next turn, and get double tanks. But again, as I said, this should have really been the T-Copter turn rather than last turn, and this turn I should have been getting 1 tank, and last turn I should have been getting 1 tank. That would have been more efficient as some backup for this recon. And now my landers over here can be quite useful picking up this guy and a tank next turn. A lot of people on this map pass up using this port entirely. I think that's kind of an oversight. This port is actually pretty valid. We'll talk about the trade-offs in a bit here. Here we see each other's recons, so now I realize I'm in a bit of trouble actually, because I have nothing to counter him over here. Now he doesn't know that necessarily, but I have nothing to counter him over here. So that's bad for these infantry. And it's bad for me getting these middle properties. I do know this infantry is going to be over there. I can't see it, but as I said, I figured out from fuel where he's going to be. He's going to be there for sure. He loads people into the lander. Again, a bad idea. Especially because he could have built these tanks and put them onto the lander next turn. That would have been so much more efficient. Don't do this. If you are putting people into the turn the lander drives back to port, you are probably not playing well. Don't do that. Think things through. Plan your builds out at least a turn in advance. If you really want to put it in the lander, build them the turn the lander gets back into port. Unless they're so slow they can't reach it. Then build them a turn earlier, I guess. Alright, so, lots and lots of properties. I'm going to drop off there. So, the downside of this back port is the first you can advance a vehicle to from it is here instead of here if you come from this port. So your front vehicle is 1 space behind. Plus side though, your back vehicle, whatever, is 1 space ahead, right? You get here and here rather than here and here. So I can't really say it's objectively worse to be dropping up from this port. It's kind of an advantage and a downside. It could be better or worse depending on what your goal is. Another advantage that it has is you can actually deploy people into this lander on that port from both these badly positioned bases. This is your best base by far, just positioning-wise. It's great. You can do whatever you want with it. It's barely blocked by anything. These bases both kind of suck. So letting the lander fix that problem for both of them is great. Whereas if you have your lander over here, you can only really use this base and that base into the lander efficiently. This base is kind of stuck walking through all these forests and dealing with the fact that it's super far back. I get my T-Copter boosts, I get lots of transport bonuses, lots and lots of transport bonuses. T-Copters are so much fun. And over there, I don't push my luck going ahead there, I just shift over here and go for that capture. Mostly I just want to guard this city. I could have shifted over there, but I want to be in position to where he can't easily first strike me with a tank, and where I can capture that city and then be ready to defend that one in the future. Now over here I thought, okay, I've got an idea. I don't actually have any defenses, he doesn't know that. I'm going to do a bluff combined with an attempted bait here. So number one, he can't actually hit both of these guys. One capture I'll get away with. What I'm hoping is that he'll go for this one, which is the safer one to interrupt instead. If he does that, he's been baited out of the middle. Give me a chance to secure things in here where it's much more important for free. This should be his city. For me to think I can get this when this is like clearly his strong side is crazy. So I hope he'll go over there and attack that. Or he'll just think that I have a tank and will fall for the bluff and not attack at all. Either one of those would be a win for me. And here I've taken a bit of a risk. Now, I know that he's going to be over there, so I was not surprised to spot him there. So now I know, okay, well, if he goes over there for that capture, I will see him do that. I can double kill him with tank recon, that'll be great. If he goes for this city, he's blocked. He can't do it anymore. And he doesn't necessarily know that. He probably knows it, but he doesn't necessarily know it. So that's good for me. But the more important thing is that I can get into this forest next turn. And if I do that, it's basically game over, I would say. Like, that forest is that good. If I get into this forest, I can see that base, I can see his port, I can see everything that drops off over here. So that alone is a humongous intelligence advantage. Just incredible. And furthermore, it completely cripples any type to get vehicles or infantry from here down this way to the middle safely. He just can't do it anymore. Dislodging my recon from that forest will take like 2 whole tank turns after scouting me, which is really painful to do because this place is really well protected. You can only scout from like one side and that side. Over here it's just ocean. So a recon on that forest would be such a humongous intelligence and positioning advantage and slow him down so badly over here that I feel like that would just clinch the game right there pretty much. So that is why I took that risk. Because I know he could have a tank here, and he does have a tank there. I knew it was possible, but I felt like it was worth it because I'm guaranteed getting some value blocking that infantry, and I'm probably getting a decent chance of humongous value getting over to that spot there. Also, good chance that this tank that he probably built is over here instead to stay safe from my tank and to be ready to harass me over here if he thinks my tank stays there. So that's why I felt like there's a decent chance of getting away with this and took that risk. Alright, I get an artillery build this turn. I build it from this back base because I know that my lander will be coming back here next turn. The artillery cannot actually reach it though. That is the downside of this back port. With the front port here, it is 5 squares from this space. So you can build a slow unit from this base here and get it into the lander and get it deployed that way. With this back base, you can't do that. Slow units can't actually reach this port from that back base. So I need to build a turn in advance so I can actually get there. And build more tanks to continue my tank chain here because I realize I'm pretty weak. I need more tanks to deal with this recon and just short my defenses. I can make up for that T-Copter. Alright, so he knows he's blocked, he goes for that lab because he can't do anything useful instead. His recon does not fall for either the bait or the bluff. He goes right ahead and attacks me, so good for him. He's focused in the middle, not focused on taking back that city. He gets some infantry dropped off there, but it could have been tanks, so that's really another tempo loss for him. His infantry there are doing absolutely nothing whatsoever. Just a complete waste of all their time. He'll have just like a lot of infantry through to the end of the game on that side. Because he'll capture everything, there's like 2 things left to capture, then the infantry just kind of sit around doing nothing with no vehicle backup. Here he just keeps spamming out tanks, I can agree with that, and builds an anti-air. Now, I'm not sure an anti-air was a great choice here. I think funding-wise it probably was the best choice overall, it just kind of mathematically worked out that way. But, me being Jess, my copters are not that great. His copters as Cole are pretty darn good because they have superior movement some of the time, they also have road bonuses, so I feel like you could probably have made a good argument for building a copter instead. But funding-wise, okay. It worked out mathematically to be a good amount that he had this turn, so okay. Alright, now notice that he ended this turn with only 17,000 income. He's player 2. He should always have more income than me at the end of his turn, like plus 1 or 2 properties. The fact that I have 3 properties ahead of him just shows what a disaster this capture order was. Never do things like this. My Teacopter hasn't even done much for me yet, and I'm already ahead of him. Alright, so get tons of more properties, get a little nice boost there. Don't forget your HQ black boat boosts. Artillery is where he can be picked up by the lander next turn, or if I change plans, he could just keep driving straight. It wouldn't be as good, but it's an option. Try to keep your options open. Don't commit to just one thing with your lander if you don't need to. Plan out possibilities a turn or 2 in advance. Here we go for that capture. And here we think, this is interesting actually. Probably. He dropped his tank off, his second tank that is over here. That's just the smart thing to do. I mean, he's probably over hereabouts. So... And if not, he's over here. Those are the 2 possibilities. Nothing else is possible. So what's interesting is I notice his infantry are here and here. He does not have any infantry over hereabouts. And so if I have infantry that are just out of their reach, like here, he can't kill them or kill this thing with an infantry. He has to use a vehicle to do it, which he has precious few of. So if I go like that and that, I have to reel my Teacup, which kind of sucks. But now he's blocked. This tank is walled for. He cannot possibly get to this tank safely. I can advance it super far while keeping it totally out of his reach, which is good for avoiding me being pushed out of the middle by his advanced positioning there. And it could also give me a chance to just force his recon to back off. Or at least waste its time being in tank range attacking things that can then counter and kill it. Pretty good for me either way. Over here, I'm taking a bit of a risk, but I can do this because I know I have double tank coverage, basically. Because I was able to advance this far, I can put that tank out of the city, and what's he going to do? Double tank attack me? I'll live, and then I'll counterattack him with 2 tanks, and he'll be way behind. And I get my own anti-air a little bit late. I probably could have... I did consider building it last turn, but the reason I passed up on it was mostly that... 2 things. Number 1, the fact that I know that he built a tank on turn 6 and whatnot, and didn't really have the money to build a copter on turn 7, I can just be pretty darn sure he built no copters before turn 8, and the airport is so far back that it really can't do anything to me too soon, so I can kind of get away with delaying it. But also, if I have my anti-air over here, at the turn the lander comes back, I actually get into position faster, dropping off with this lander instead of just driving it along this way or something like that. This is probably more useful. So I was able to delay it, get useful things out instead, and still hopefully get the anti-air in position just as fast, basically. There, he does have to use a vehicle, attacking that infantry. Now he's exposed. I can do a first strike with me having a city. To my surprise, he actually has his recon finish off my recon. I'm not sure that's worth it. It's trading basically a full HP recon for a half HP recon. Not really great. I see him go there, which is interesting information. That means he built another tank the next turn after his first tank was built. So again, that means copters are another turn delayed, basically. So that's interesting and good information for me to have. And it also again tells me he's not really using this lander so far very much, and he's laser focused on the middle and nothing else. So I'm really seeing his strategy unfold here. But something else that I see too. So he loops these guys around there, and he's going for that city there as I knew he would. And I see him not go for that city there. So I think that's interesting. Another thing that I know is he just captured this city, last turn. Meaning he'll probably go for this city as his next target, which I know is vacant. His formation here makes me think that, maybe, probably in fact, he's doing what I have, but a turn early. He has an artillery over here, basically, in a perfect position where his infantry can walk over there and block for it, and he can cover his tank perfectly, cover that city perfectly. If I attack with that seemingly good attack, it'll actually be, a trap I'll fall into, I'll be devastated. That's a great move. I have to play around it even though he's not actually doing it. He actually just walked out there into the open. Now here he makes a blunder. A major one, I think. Took his going to the lander, and the lander drives over here to the comm tower and drops off there. Why? He's already 1 turn from the comm tower. He already has Gajillion infantry with nothing to capture over here. Now he's wasting multiple lander turns to just drive back slowly into position before he can do anything. It's just an awful use of the lander. I saw a high-level player do that too, and it was a disaster for that high-level player too. Don't do this. Your lander has better things to do. Drop off some vehicles, defend the comm tower that way. Alright, here he does threaten to capture my city there. I do need to actually expose an infantry to deal with that, so good move here. He's got good coverage. Well, pretty good coverage anyway. He has a copter. I can understand that. Good choice. Base skips for it. I actually agree with that. I mean, he has a glut of infantry here. He has a lifetime supply of infantry for this front at this point. What I don't agree with is building this tank from the back base here where I slow down instead of from the front base there where I can go at full speed. He needs more tanks in the middle faster. Alright, so my turn. I get some properties, get my comm tower. This is good information for me. Now I can guaranteed kill the tanks off of cities with my 2 tanks. Take a risk here, interrupting that. I know he could have reinforced there that could first strike me, so I need to plan around that possibility of him first striking me. But I felt like keeping my city was decently well worth it. And my infantry are so bad that I feel like I had no choice. So over here I changed plans. I planned to put the anti-air in there, but hey, I saw him have another tank there. That means another turn of the copter was delayed. And also, I need to prepare for this tank to possibly die. I need to get more troops over there to defend that area fast. So, it's got to be a tank. Over there I kill up his free recon basically, and start capturing that city. I don't expect to actually get it. What I want to do is just force him to commit vehicles hopefully to stopping me. And then I'll have good terrain and he won't have good terrain. I'm going to control the best ground. I back off there. I know I'm going to get killed if I stay any longer, so back off. This is his strong side, not mine. And there, I decide, okay, I've got an idea. I'm pretty darned out in the open here with this tank. What I'm going to have is lots of good vehicle coverage, where if he strikes me, he'll get counterattacked pretty hard from all sides. And that's pretty good for me overall, I think, because he'll be fighting closer to my bases than to his. And I am Jess, and he is Cole. I am just better than he is at vehicle combat. If I pull him into a vehicle versus vehicle fight, where I have good backup, and I'm fighting closer to my bases, and I'm Jess, I will come out ahead overall in the long term. It won't be great if he first strikes me, but I will make him pay for that. He will suffer. So tanks are right out in the open, but they cover each other, so it's going to be okay. And here I think I make a bit of a mistake. The money worked out in a convenient, fun way, but this should have been a recon, not an artillery. Now, what I was thinking at this point was probably I'm going to be starting to fight heavy battles over here. I'm going to have artillery to back me up, and that'll be useful for defending myself in this region. As it turns out, though, it really won't be. And what would have been useful, though, would have been a recon. I've been thinking I need more vision over to see what he's dropping off and harass him over here and protect my infantry cheaply. A recon would have done all of that, and artillery really won't do that. So that probably would have been a better choice. In any case, so his turn. He starts threatening to capture that city from me. By all rights, that should be his city. There is no way I'd be able to keep it and hold it in a game where he's deploying with his lander properly. Like, not a chance. He's really focused on that comm tower. I'm not, like... This is not the version 1 of this map. That comm tower is his, and there's no contesting it. It would be suicide for me to try to take that comm tower from him. Like, he should be happy if I try to do that, because he'll win if I do that. Alright, and here, he takes the bait, he interrupts the capture. He did it in a wrong way, too, though. So what he should have done was attack with a tank or whatever. This infantry finish it off, then he occupies the city, and that infantry can capture that city or whatever. That would have been better. Now he's exposed. Alright. So, he walks that way. Why in the world do we even build the infantry from that front base if we can just walk it backward? Not good. Builds another battlecopter. Sure, that's a good idea. And base skips. He didn't need to, I guess he's just saving his money. He has plenty of infantry, but I don't think he needed to do that. Alright, so my turn. At this point, I know I'm way ahead of him in income. 27 would be even. I can see most of the properties are neutral, so I know that I'm definitely ahead of him on income. And if I can just keep it that way, I'm definitely going to win. Jess is a superior CO to Cole when the income gets high and the battles get going. If I can get more income than him too, I will just win. Here, I know I'm probably sacrificing this infantry, but I feel like that's worth it to just delay him capturing that property. I will back it up with vehicles, so I'm not just throwing infantry away for nothing. I will be able to hold that property, maybe, if he keeps making mistakes like he's been making. Here we get a great first strike. I've still been avoiding fighting him over here because I think he probably has an artillery. He doesn't, but I just need to play around that. And here I think, okay, well, he probably will put an infantry onto that, city sooner or later to start threatening my guys. I'll just stay in this woodwork and cover these two cities and stay safe, basically. And maybe threaten his city in the future. It's kind of a multi-tasked infantry. Here I'm setting up ambushes. What I want to do this turn is set up a lot of targets where his vehicles will come off of those defensive properties. While he's there, I really can't do much to him. Like, he said I basically capture these properties, and then I won't really be able to hold that property up there forever, so the income will kind of equalize, and that won't be good for me. I need to lure him off of there into the open where I can just devastate him. So for that, I need to have people capture properties and set up other bait for him. The tank bait, like I hoped they would go for, did not work, so now let's go for something else instead. The infantry is bait. Hopefully he'll, it turns out it's a vehicle, but hopefully he'll have a tank come out after it, something like that. And I'm going to put up more bait too. This guy's boosted over here. We can threaten to capture that city next turn. I have my own coppers, you can see here, which I think I mentioned will be useful for a couple things. Copters are always pretty good against copters. Even Jess coppers can do a good job at the first strike of coal copter of just crippling. I feel like because I set my anti-air this way, I really need more anti-air defenses, because I'm going to be quite slow to get this anti-air down here where I probably need it. It's kind of a fallout from having to restructure things to have a tank instead of that anti-air go onto this lander drop off down there on a previous turn. So we need to have more anti-aircraft capability, basically. Secondly, he probably won't expect it. Just doesn't build many battlecopters, maybe he won't have many anti-airs. I know this guy loves actually to tech up to bombers and anti-tanks and neo-tanks, so I'm betting he will have few anti-airs so I can save up for those faster, which is his favorite thing to do. Thirdly, this map really gives artillery a lot of useful positions to fire from. One thing that's great about battlecopters is that they can, move into artillery range without penalties, without, taking a hit back. So they're really just great for giving a chance to hit things that are covered by artillery. Overall, I'll still say they're pretty weak on this map, but they have their niche, and that's what I'm building this one for. So there, I keep the anti-air concealed, cover myself, covering that infantry as well as threatening things over here. He could attack me, but he doesn't know he can do that. He doesn't know the wood is open. It'd be a silly idea to even try it, and I have plenty of coverage anyway. I love this spot. I can grab infantry, just drop them off with beautiful efficiency. Another bait unit there. The artillery's covering me, so if he goes for that, he will just get blown away. Keep those tanks ready where they can just smash him up next turn. And here build a neo-tank and do something else that's worth noting. With my lander over there, I give this infantry a boost rather than walking back to port. I decided that for my strategy I want to use this port rather than this port. I think it's more important for me to get artillery and anti-tanks down here than it is for me to get both these bases deploying efficiently. And especially because I plan to break open that pipe seam soon. If it's not attacking here, we'll hit the pipe seam and start breaking it open. And also, I want to get a neo-tank, and if I do that, then I'll only be building infantry from these bases. And so I won't really be wasting much time next turn with the lander just walking back instead of being ready to pick things up, this turn. So it's an efficient way to do everything, to get the lander back over there without wasting any lander time, effectively. Get out a neo-tank that hopefully counters MD6 from neo-tanks that he'll be getting. Everything works out pretty well. Okay, unsurprisingly he kills me over there, but I've laid that capture. Hopefully interrupted it permanently, we'll see. We get some middle properties. We're about tied in the middle so far, but considering that he's investing everything in the middle, whereas I'm kind of putting a few guys here, a few guys there to do other objectives too, and I'm head on the sides, I'm doing pretty well, I would say. He gets a very lucky interrupt there. He just got his comm tower, but it was still by no means guaranteed that he would get that. In fact, it was highly improbable. So lucky him. He does take that bait there, walking a tank out to attack that tank and that tank out. So now he's got two tanks out in the open and takes this bait too. So basically he just fell headlong into my trap and now he'll get blown away. I knew he'd fall for it sooner or later. I set it 3 turns worth of bait. Sooner or later he was going to fall for it, and he fell for it this turn. Right, he's capturing that city, but again, I'm not sure this is a great approach. This is good coverage here. We'll complement his anti-air coverage there. He's got all his tanks perfectly covered. If I had a copter, I would really pay for that attack dearly. Again, wasting the lander's time. I should have put the empty tank into it next turn instead of doing this. Not a good approach. Okay, so this turn I know this is perfect. He fell headlong into my trap. How will I capitalize on that? I have several different options. This tank is probably going to be needed down here instead of attacking that infantry, so I've got to probably have another infantry sacrifice itself to slow him down. Not ideal, but probably worth to keep that city and keep that 2,000 income difference. This one attack is a no-brainer. Now I can probably actually finish him off with an infantry. There's a decent chance at least, so go ahead and go for that shortly. Nope. I had some bad luck this turn. Here I have to reveal my anti-air to kill that thing off. I don't like revealing that, I'd rather keep it secret. I'd rather get it advanced further down here, maybe into that forest, so I can cover more guys. But I think it's worth it overall. Killing that tank is valuable, and it opens up a great avenue where I can now kill the guy off that city and strike that tank with the first strike too. And I've noticed also that he really has not been sending many guys over this way, so the odds of him having a tank there right now seem pretty low. So I feel like the anti-air is probably pretty safe from tanks. Not guaranteed safe, but pretty safe. So that is why I did that. I wanted to keep it secret, but I feel like it was worth it to get a first strike on that tank and finish off his tank over there. More reinforcements coming along. I have great coverage, especially considering I have my CO power ready. I can cover even more things with the Neo tank next turn. And here I decided, okay, I will not go for the capture, I'll just kill this tank off, finish it off, get a little bit greedy over here, but don't get too greedy. I leave that spot open where if you want to walk over there and get into artillery range, by all means, be my guests and do that. Here, though, I do make a blunder. This is just a dumb move. Now, I did talk about the possibility of capturing the city in a future turn. This is not the turn to do it, though. He has Trail of Woe, and I know he has Trail of Woe. See, if I go for that city, I'm not going to get it. He's going to have vehicles there. He's going to be able to interrupt it. No doubt about that. What will be useful is that it'll bait a vehicle out of position. If he has to have a tank or whatever interrupt me down here instead of going to the middle, that lets me just crush him harder in the middle, and I can just pull back into that force and be perfectly safe. That would be, if not a win for me, at least a pretty good outcome for me. That was what my goal was going to be going for that city. Not to get it, just to bait him into a bad position with the vehicle. But this is his Trail of Woe turn. His infantry will move super fast this turn. He'll almost certainly interrupt with an infantry this turn, so it was a bad idea to do it this way. Should have kept it safe for another turn and then gone for it. Alright, get that great teacup to drop off, form a wall there where the anti-air can't be struck from the force, and where I'm threatening to get even more captures. And I get another anti-air, because this one is being slow to arrive, and something else I'm thinking about too is this. He's got a superpower. He will almost certainly pummel me this turn. I've lost units that are out in the open. It's going to be a brawl. I want a brawl. So I'm going to take a lot of damage. I'll probably get my superpower. At that point, I can then have this anti-air move 8 squares into that ladder and drop off super efficiently down here. That would be beautiful. Down here, my artillery still cover me. I can also threaten with the superpower to break open that pipe seam quite quickly, and that'll let my MD tank that'll drop off down here get through super fast too. So I'm all thinking a couple turns ahead, basically, just planning on getting pummeled here, and then dropping off anti-airs with a superpower bonus. Alright, so it's his turn, but he kind of bungles his Trail of Woe here. The main point of it is boost your infantry. That's his real asset that he has compared to me. But his infantry moves first. This guy could have gone for that city. That would have been a real threat. It wouldn't have been something he'd get, but it would at least make me waste time on this crucial turn. That is a big, big waste of Trail of Woe. Then that guy finishes him off. That guy goes for that capture. Just not good. Alright. So, he does get some value out of his Trail of Woe, but not anywhere near enough to justify it. He gets a strike on that tank, yeah, that's pretty good, but he doesn't have a road bonus, which is like a 5-8 like you get with his just day-to-day, basically. It's not useful. He kills that tank, that's pretty good. He gets a good strike there with his road, sure, it's pretty good. He can't kill me, though, because he can't finish it off from that side with his weakened tank. And he gets that capture, sure, pretty good. And he's smart, he builds a defensive wall, and he's smart here also, he has the copter interrupt. He knows my anti-air's over here, I can't get to him, he knows I have artillery over there. This is what copters are good for on this map. When you know the artillery is there, the copter's a safe thing to attack with. And he interrupted me for free down there, so I definitely made a blunder. And he forms a wall over there. Could have been much more efficient, but he's threatening 2 of my captures, he's threatening captures in the middle. It's not an awful Trail of Woe, it just could have been much, much better. But, ironically, if it had been better, it actually would have helped me by giving me that superpower and letting me just smash him in retaliation. Now I realize I'm actually in a bit of a bind here, where to interrupt these captures, I must use at least my CO power to get enough movement to be able to do that. To get this recon position where I can view things and get people over there where they can attack. I've got to do that. But if I don't use my superpower, I can't get this anti-air into this lander. I'll be stuck with my anti-air probably over here and killing these infantry off and not being useful. And that's really bad for me. I have all my anti-air over here, basically, and nothing over here where his copters are. I look to have my copter, but that's something, but it's not enough. So I'm in a bit of a bind. I've thought long and hard about what to do here. Came up with 3 scenarios, basically. One of them is have this copter strike first against that tank there. Get a good first strike, that'll get me my superpower fully charged up. Then just devastate with the superpower. I can wipe out all these tanks pretty much. Just break formation, just kill everything in sight. I'll be left open to copter retaliation, I'll have no formation, so I'll get retaliated against pretty hard if I do that. But if he doesn't have reinforcements, that will just end the game pretty much. As it turns out, he doesn't have reinforcements, I didn't really know that. The big problem with that is I'll be stuck with basically no way to either have an anti-air down here or interrupt those captures. And my copter will be out in the open where if he has an anti-air or copter of his own, I'll just be devastated and I'll have no response. So if he does have reinforcements, I'll just pay heavily for that. It's probably not worth the risk. So I go with the conservative strategy instead of just using my CO power instead. So that gives me the one bonus movement that lets me reveal that spot, and now that it's open, confirm that I can do what I thought I could do. So anti-air goes up there, instant kills that, open up a path, interrupt that capture, interrupt that capture too, and here he can't actually strike me very well, because to get that infantry, he has to either kill that tank, unlikely, or he has to pull this guy off of there and bring up a vehicle or whatever. So it really interrupts him pretty hard. Then there, get a great first strike on him. There, likewise, kill that tank. I don't plan to get that city, I just want to keep presenting threats that he has to respond to, where he has to keep wasting his time, having vehicles go out into the open and things like that. This is a suicidal infantry trying to delay that capture. Not sure it was worth it. I think it was probably a decent idea overall considering what else it did this turn, but it also helps wall for the tanks a little bit. Not well, but a little bit. Again, I don't think I'm going to get that. I'm just trying to waste his precious unit's time. If you present too many threats for the opponent to respond to, you will force them to use vehicles to do dumb things like attack infantry, and they can counter them hard. Presenting a lot of threats simultaneously is often the best strategy. It's kind of what he failed to do during his superpower. He did a little bit of it, but not as much as he could have done. Did a nice boost onto that mountain there. And unfortunately I had to pass up the anti-air drops, so my anti-airs are all over here, so I have like no air defenses down here except for this one copter. Build a wall for my artillery over there. I thought about attacking that pipe, decided I'll just have the artillery go over here. We can still do that, where it covers everything pretty well instead. And then drop off the MD tank where it can hopefully charge through the pipe or break it next turn. And I get another copter because I realize this one's probably going to be expended and I need to have more anti-air defenses down here fast. And I'm also thinking I probably want more MD tanks over here. Neo tank could attack an infantry. I feel like that is not at all worth refilling a Neo tank, especially against an opponent who I know absolutely positively loves bombers. His favorite unit. He builds them like almost every game. He builds them early most games. So keep that Neo tank safe, wait for an MD tank or Neo tank to expose itself, and then kill it and then wall for myself. That's the thing to do. Alright, copters stay safely out of sight where it covers everything. So everything is covered by either an anti-air or a copter. Well, technically both in a few cases. Alright, so that was a pretty bad turn for him. He interrupts me there, sure, not surprising. He has a tank, have to finish me off, that leaves his tank out in the open, that's going to be a dead tank. He kills the infantry, not great for me, but it did at least delay that capture. He has, as it turns out, 2 copters, not just 1, so he gets some nice first strikes to me, and I can't counter those with artillery, so I'm glad I had this copter there. Otherwise it would have just been wrecked. So I made the right call. Overall, he has a pretty good turn here, I would say. Good retaliation. Not devastating, but good. And he pulls back because he can't fight these vehicles. He has no vehicle backup. His infantry are just going to die, so he has to pull them back. I could have had just like one recon here, just massacre infantry, turn with no retaliation this entire game, but I thought he'd be making this his strong side, so I didn't do that. Alright. And he can't really wall for himself very well here anymore, so he pulls back. Could maybe kill that guy, but it would have just been a dead infantry, so not sure. Here, this is a good move. MD tank there, drop it off next turn. You need to counter that anti-air and that tank. MD tank is the perfect counter. Great positioning. Alright, so my turn. I'm in a bit of a tight spot here, where I can hit one of his copters, but not both of them. If I can basically, cripple one copter, have the other one tied up, killing me for a turn, that's still okay for me while bringing anti-airs. It's not great, but it's what a Jess copter is made to do, basically. So it's alright. The copter will do its job. The plan will work, but it does need a little bit exposed here. So he got a decent payback turn there. But I get that property. That's good for me. Because he had to have the copter over there to strike that tank. Couldn't do both. Again, present lots of threats. They can't do everything. There, I scout him and say, okay, nothing there. Here I saw a chance. The odds were quite good that if this infantry attack and that infantry attack, he would die, I could then capture that city. Now again, I don't think I'll actually get it necessarily. I just think I'll force him to hopefully expose a vehicle, or to waste infantry lives attacking me with me having good terrain. That's the plan there. It doesn't actually work, I had bad luck, so these infantry are going to die, it's not great, but the odds of success were quite high. Alright, so here, bring my lander back to the port. T-copter boosts. I'm still thinking about what to do, basically. Strategizing a little bit. So what I decided on is, kill the free infantry that I know are unguarded. Pull tanks back for repairs. Take some defensive positions. Take out that copter, yes. I actually decided I would have this MD tank and that artillery break through that pipe to open up future, more efficient pathways. So MD tank did that, artillery did that. And I know that leaves the artillery where he can see me. It's out in the open. But you know what? It's actually bait. I'm going to put my other artillery where I cover that one, so it finally has something to do. That tank's probably going to die. I know that's not great, but it has a secret empty tank coverage over here, basically, so it's kind of bait. I'm still not sure it was worth it, but that was the idea. And that is also bait. People love attacking artillery. If he does that, though, he'll be walking into what will soon be a CO power ambush with that anti-air up there. He'll be walking to this artillery's range if he attacks with a vehicle instead, so that is the plan. And just wall up there, grab all the good terrain, and wait for him to attack me when I have the high ground.
The geography that I stands compares you superior. You underrated my ability.
He has an anti-air, so I lose that copter without him having to sacrifice his own copter for it. Not great for me, but it's okay. He interrupts. I really should not have sacrificed that tank there. It didn't work, basically. The Allies' success lowering to 1 HP were really high, I just didn't get the rolls, so I threw away tank for nothing there. Probably a mistake. Here he loops around, has his other copter commit, kills the artillery, but the artillery did his job, it was bait, so that's fine. And here, I don't know what he's doing. This is suicide. He just pulled out of there. He knows he has no vehicles, he knows I do have vehicles. Those are just dead infantry. And he does not put the empty tank onto the lander where he can at least cover some of them. He just drops more infantry off there. And he builds a bomber. I think he probably gave up this turn, basically. He just builds a bomber, triple base, because even they had the money. I think he probably knew he was losing, just wanted to get a free fun turn with his bomber, his favorite unit. So that's probably why I made some of those mistakes that turn. Alright, for this turn, I start capitalizing. Kill off that thing. I thought about getting my superpower out this turn. If I did that, I could have actually had this anti-air kill that one, and this one kill that one, and this tank kill that anti-air. It would have been glorious, but I decided I wouldn't really do that. Instead, I would just do these moves here, go for good enough, threaten more captures, cover myself with artillery and whatnot, and just wait for an even more painful turn next turn. Some of my moves this turn were kind of incoherent because I started off planning to do the superpower and then I changed my mind mid-turn. I also started off planning to surround and trap his copter here, and I changed my mind about that too. So that's why some of my mistakes this turn happened. Here I know he can try to block my port, whatever, and really screw up my lander, but I have my copter there to stop him, so it'll be okay. He doesn't know that I have it, so that'll also be okay. And here I know that because of my superpower saved up, if he attacks this Neotank next turn, he'll get destroyed no matter what he has. If he has a bomber, great, I've got 2 anti-airs covering my superpower. No way he can stop that. If he has a Neotank, great, I've got an empty tank and an artillery there, he'll get blown away, and another empty tank. No matter what he does, basically, if he attacks that, he'll just die. So, I got a great first strike on him there, and I'm so well covered, I'm not even worried. And I cover all these things super well too, so this is a pretty devastating and hard to counter push. At this point, I'm sure I'm going to win. It's a question of when. Alright, so he suicides more infantry up the top, he joins. I don't know what he even thinks he's going to accomplish over there. He knows he can't push successfully here, so just pulls back. That's smart, but that means with these properties, so my 4 income lead that I had because of my superior capture order will now become like a 6 or 7 property lead and growing. Builds a Neotank and artillery. This base skip is okay, I guess. Fine. And tries to block me there, which is pretty smart, but I'm going to be ready to counter that. So I get these properties from him. I know I'm going to just demolish everything at this point. Kill that copter up for free, and now I think, okay, I don't really need a superpower. CO power will do. That's good enough movement for what I had in mind. And I'm opening up a pathway here. At long last, I have a recon that's going to go charging right through into those woods. Once I clear off that, I hear that it's going to be over there. So now I can see what he's got, and I'm ready to block him off next turn. And here, just a massacre of infantry begins. I walked that guy back into that black boat. A little known fact, if an infantry or whatever is in a black boat on the HQ, it actually gets repaired by the HQ. You won't be able to see that this game, but it happens. It's pretty cool. More kills, and here I just think, well, I've got all the properties on here, I'll just take defensive positions. No need to expose more vehicles, I can just speed up my win by keeping my vehicles alive. And build my good game second T-copter. Alright, so his turn, he activates his Trail of Woe, gets some hits, but it doesn't really matter anymore. And his bomber gets ambushed and blocked in that forest, which is glorious. I anticipated this, I had an artillery ready for this, so that's going to die. So go ahead and kill that thing. Secure many, many kills. I struck from that place rather than from the city, both to charge up more power, also free up the city to be captured, of course. Now I can get the turbocharge out, freeing up this anti-air to go over there and kill that guy. So instant kills. Wreck these vehicles here. The massacre continues. I'm going for his comm tower next, actually. It's now exposed. I'm going to just have my guy drop off the range of it. Massacre infantry down there, too. It's just a slaughter, and here I blocked his lander. He can't reinforce there anymore. He's just blocked. If he tries to get over there, he won't have superpower anymore, so it's just the ambush in the fog. His units will be stuck in the boat doing nothing, and that'll be pretty much the end of him on that front. I'm going at this point for... I'm threatening the HQ capture, but really I'm planning to go for a capture limit capture. If I get all these middle properties and a couple of these ones over here, I'll just win by capture limit. And you can't stop me anymore if you're blocking this shoal off, so that's how I'm going to secure a victory. And I just fool around and build things like mega tanks at this point. Alright, so he goes ahead and resigns. Makes sense. I knew it was a matter of time. Overall, I would say that this was a fun match. It wasn't a very close one, which is why I kind of wanted to show just how badly you can screw yourself over with bad lander tactics. Lots of other moves they made were perfectly viable moves. It's just the bad lander stuff really crippled them. And as I said, even high-level players making big lander mistakes and just losing games as a result. So, take these lessons to heart. If you are on a map where you have a lander, that lander is, bar none, your most important asset. Think every single turn about how to get the best possible use out of it. The amount of positioning and control you get by deploying vehicles super fast with that thing is incredible. Plan your builds at least a turn or two in advance, maximize lander use. If you're ever in a spot where you're putting vehicles into the lander the turn that drives back into port, you're probably playing wrong. Bear that in mind too. Well, thank you for watching everyone, and a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Illusory Thunder, MasterNet DH, Advanced Warrior, Jackie, Gregory, William Wakefield, Kenny Boggs, Danny Hall, and Jeffrey Morse. Have a great day, everyone!